Hey guys, it's Hink here. So today I want to discuss all-day stretchers, okay? So we've made videos about pumping, we've made videos about extenders, like in detail. Check out my two playlists respectively. But today I want to be talking about basically using a device that puts tension on the penis for essentially all day and what kind of gains you can expect, what the data is behind it, what we can learn from it, do I recommend it, all of these things. And I'm also going to give my do's and don'ts regarding the use of this device. So let's just start with breaking down what data we have. Well, guys, as you know, there is a paucity, meaning a lack of data when it comes to PE in general. However, if you look on one of these main company websites, it's called Phallosan Forte. They actually have kind of published their findings when it comes to growth results with using their device. Many of you are familiar with the Phallosan Forte, and so I'll have Callie put up some pictures here, but it's basically just a device where you either strap it kind of around your waist or you strap it down your leg. I first learned about this when Derek More Plates, More Dates, if you haven't seen my video about that, check it out, basically brought that up along with a MathMate device. Now, the key thing with both of those devices is he had a promo code, but that kind of introduced me to the world of extenders, all-day stretching devices, basically PE in general. And so, guys, I say this is like published. This is not published in a peer-reviewed journal. There are no before and after pictures to back it, and it was actually poorly written. It doesn't have an introduction. It doesn't have a proper sectioning, but they use these graphics that they try to impress you with, okay? But let's just go over what they have. So what they did is they had 24 men that were using their all-day stretcher for 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 6 months. And I am a pretty religious person actually, but I do not like that mark of the beast right there. So that's already a bad sign with the 666. Now guys, you've already seen my video on attrition or dropout rates, but in this study, once again, that can't stay consistent, man. They had 24 people enlisted and 7 of them dropped out before the end of the study. PE doesn't work. Yeah, because you can't freaking stick with it. And so here's a graphic here that shows the age range from anywhere from about 20 years old to greater than 60 years old. So they had a nice representation. I actually do like the fact that they incorporated the patient's weights in this study. So here's a graphic here which basically shows that the weight of the patient didn't change, because if you were just measuring bone press length, you could have the patients lose a bunch of weight on the trial, increase significantly their non-bone press length, you can make it seem like the results were even better than they were, but they actually monitored the patient's weight. Now that being said, once again, this paper is so poorly written. They didn't say how they measured. They didn't say if the patients submitted their own photos or if they were measured by a single, basically, doctor. So there's so much guesswork done. They just kind of tell you in general terms, okay? So just keep that in mind. So let's get into the results, okay? So what did they see for girth? So first of all, I want to be very clear. When you are focusing on a primary length exercise, whether it be manual stretches, an extender, or an all-day stretcher, you should not expect any girth gains, okay? So that's been demonstrated across countless different extender studies, which has the best data by far. But in the study, as you can see here, they did actually show a slight increase in girth. The mean went from 10.6 centimeters to 11.3 at 3 months to 11.4 at 6 months. Now, inherently, this doesn't really make sense, but if you think about it, it might, okay? And also, so Ben from Male Hanger, okay, still want more too on Reddit, he has pretty clearly demonstrated that he has gotten girth just by using his Male Hanger device, okay, which is basically hanging, which is a length-only exercise, but he has measurable girth gains. Just so you know, guys, Male Hangers are available on peakmalephysique.com if you're interested. But I definitely think that that's the exception and not the rule. I think that this is just representative of erection quality improvement, was my initial hypothesis when I read this, and it ends up basically being proven right. So guys, if you have not seen my video on how extenders can improve erection quality and the data behind it, please check it out after this. But here's an article here which basically talks about how that stretch signals that you can get when using primarily an extender can actually trigger the nitric oxide pathway and can improve your erection quality that way. Better erection quality leads to better gains and leads to better girth. And guys, here's a similar paper which demonstrated, now this is more so talking about shear stress, and I also just recently made a video about that as well. You should check it out. But by applying that stretch signal, once again, you're basically inducing these nitric oxide pathways that are going to lead to better erection quality and therefore better girth, okay? And at the end of the day, guys, this increase in girth was not statistically significant in my opinion, okay? And you can see it by that graph that the actual mean value changed, but there's a lot of overlap between basically the ranges. And guys, here later they actually do break down like erection quality benefits, and here's a little pie chart here which shows that more than 50% of the guys said that they had an improvement in erection quality when using this device, and so that would potentially account for some benefits in girth. Now here's where things get really shady, and I actually thought I had respect for Phallosan Forte, but after this paper and after this breakdown, like I actually lost a lot of respect for them, and so I'm going to explain why here. So here you can see the erect length changed from 12.3 mean or average to 13.4, then to 14.1. Over the span of 6 months, on average, they gained 1.8 centimeters, which is 0.7 inches. So 0.7 inches in 6 months, that in itself, wearing an extending device 6 hours a day or more, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, okay? It's very well within the range of possibility. But here's where these shady bastards manipulate the data. So here's an actual screenshot from their website. And as you can see here, they say length increase after 6 months is 4.9 centimeters or 1.93 inches. Then the length increase erect is 4.8 centimeters. And then the increased circumference is 2.5 centimeters. And you're like, whoa, like those numbers are astronomical. 6 months, basically an inch in girth and almost 2 inches in length. So guys, what they're doing is they took the maximum values that you know, they had that one outlier on the trial that allegedly got an inch in girth and basically 2 inches in length. And that's what they used to put in their chart as like 6 month results. And if you look, they have a little tiny asterisk and some small print at the bottom that says this represents the peak value, okay? Not the mean value, not the average amount that people grew, but basically that one outlier that had the max results. This is what that one person allegedly got with no photographic evidence demonstrated whatsoever. Guys, I cannot stress enough how easy it is to fake these results. All of these freaking PE companies do it. They say, oh yes, this is our data, and they just plot these points on a graph and say, oh, look at how impressive it is, it works, with no photographic evidence. It's not that hard. Guys, there's evidence of like penile surgeries, penile fillers. So guys, even the pneuma implant, which I can't dissuade you more not to do that, actually has documented before and afters with the implant in place. And so all of these little scumbag companies like this, in my opinion, okay, you make your own conclusions, that just say, oh, look at this reported data that's not even published in a peer-reviewed journal article. It's easy to just fake these gains. And even this is one of my biggest criticisms of the P. Long study, okay? Actually published, I do reference it all the time, but the guy never posted any actual evidence that this enlarged. He just said, these are our findings. We didn't publish pictures. So anyways, guys, just take this stuff. This is promotional material on their website, okay, without any peer-reviewed journal article, without any photos, and they're saying that somebody got 2 inches in length wearing an all-day stretcher in 6 months. Once again, guys, this is just my opinion, but until I get proven otherwise, I feel like that is absolute BS, okay? You make your own conclusions, but that is just insanity. Now, I do like the point that they actually include the length of the wear, and they show that on average, the Phallosan was worn for at least 6 hours a day, with some people wearing it as many as 10 hours a day. Who knows? Maybe it's that one person that wore it for 10 hours a day that got 2 inches of length. I doubt that highly, but it's, hey, stranger things have happened. So guys, like, honestly, this is pretty much it as far as what I could find for specifically all-day stretchers actual data, okay? And that's limited to what they actually had on their website. The Phallosan is allegedly FDA approved, but you actually can't find evidence of that. And if it's FDA approved, it's usually something like where it's FDA approved in the setting of after a prostatectomy to prevent penile retraction. And guys, if you are doing any kind of enlargement exercises, please protect yourself, okay? That's why I made my safety stack, okay? It's Vigor to protect your endothelium, Shield to protect your nerves, and Safeguard to prevent against fibrosis and even reverse it. So if you're doing any of that, please consider those supplements. Check it out, leviathansubs.com. Links are in the description. Now, guys, there is other data that we can pull from to say, okay, does this actually make sense or is this an outlier? So, guys, if you have not seen my video on the ideal length of a session for length work, what it should be, like, please watch that after this. I put in so much time and effort breaking through these papers, okay? Speaking of, just leave a thumbs up on this video, guys, if you're liking this at all. And of course, sub up if you haven't already. So here's a paper by Yaffe et al., and it actually looked at penile traction. Now, this was in people with Peyronie's disease, and they were injected with another agent as well. So we can't just directly translate one-to-one, like Peyronie's disease, to people just trying to enlarge their penis. But what they found is this on this study is that time did matter, in the sense that people who wore the device for more than 3 hours, now this is just an extender, did have significantly increased gains compared to those who wore it less than 3 hours. So limited study, but here's another study here, guys. And in this paper, what they showed was actually a very similar trend, in that when you wore a device specifically for basically longer period of time, it did lead to more gains. And they were actually able to calculate, specifically look at basically stretched penile length, that you could get an additional 0.38 centimeters gained for every additional hour per day, 7 days a week. So what this is saying is that there is actually evidence when it comes to length work that more is more. So in my opinion, that's relatively conclusive evidence that, number one, all-day stretchers, I do think that they work. Anecdotally speaking, meaning from the stories, the clients I have not had a client that has got tremendous gains from just wearing an all-day stretcher. I just haven't, okay? I have yet to come across that. If you wore an all-day stretcher and you got great gains, leave your comment in the description below, but that's just not what I've seen. Now, that being said, what are some of the drawbacks? Well, number one, you have to wear it for basically 6 to 8, as many as 10 hours a day. I would never, ever, ever, please listen closely, do not sleep these devices. I don't care what the manufacturer says. I don't care about any of that. Do not sleep in these devices. They can cause you major damage. You can wake up to your D being just a shattered mess, okay? Do not sleep in these devices. So if you're not sleeping in it, that requires you wearing it throughout the day, okay? When I first got into this, I actually looked at wearing an all-day stretcher, and it just wasn't feasible, even though, like, my scrubs are, I could maybe fit something in there. But yeah, I flexed, and what? Say something. But I still think that it would show, and more than that, I drink a lot of water during the day. I stay hydrated. I pee like every hour, if not more. And so I can't imagine having to take off the device and put it back on, and heaven forbid I'm walking down the hall and a piece snaps off or something. There's just so many things that can go wrong for me logistically, which is I've never considered an ADS, all-day stretcher. I also think that you have to be careful when it comes to injury risk. Now, this is kind of theoretical and my kind of conservative nature when it comes to PE. But just even if you have a vacuum cap on your glands, or just pressure around the glands of your penis from using the device to hold it in place, that is at the very least obstructing your lymphatic channels and putting you at risk of things like lymphoceles or even lymphangiosclerosis. Now, objection, Your Honor, those are cosmetic issues. You're exactly right, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't portend worse issues long term. And if you potentially obstructing the flow, or even you press it too hard on a nerve, there are some questions about sensitivity. Now, in that Phallosan study, they showed no decrease in sensitivity. He was either unchanged or it improved in the study, just for reference, okay? But it's just a personal concern that I have. And just a word of warning, there was a guy that was on Reddit, and he actually detailed a story about how he was wearing one at work, an all-day stretcher that went down his leg. And one of the ladies he worked with actually called him out and was basically like, what is that? And he was so embarrassed. Or she said something like, I hope that works out for you. I mean, it was rough. It was rough. So those are some of my concerns about basically using it, or some of the drawback. The benefit is, well, like I already said, guys, it works. I do think there's more effective ways. I do think there's more efficient ways, okay? Like an extender or like manual stretches, where you could do, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how you're doing it, and you could potentially see the same gains. Guys, if you have not seen my video on the basically duration of PE, or the ideal set time for PE, please watch that. I break down all of that. And so I do think that there are more efficient ways. In general, it is low risk. On this study, and even amongst anecdotal, I don't know of anybody that's actually injured themselves using an all-day stretcher. I don't, okay? And I also think the ease of kind of just setting it and forgetting it is nice. You put your all-day stretcher on, wrap it around your waist, whatever it may be, and it's just on in place, and you can go out about your day. So there's definitely some benefits. So what are my recommendations, basically, as far as how to use one? So guys, keep in mind, I've never used one. So just take this with a grain of salt, go on, r/getting bigger, where there's a plethora of information, guys, that use all day stretchers, or check out BD's channel, like BD Peak Male Physique. Link will be in the description, where he talks about using all day stretchers. But I think actually the best application is more so in the setting of retention theory. And I know some of you are like, wait a minute, Hink, you said you don't believe in retention theory. So guys, I don't believe in using a constriction ring after pumping. I don't believe that does anything at all to help with gains. And so in that setting of retention theory, that way, okay, where you're just trapping edema in your soft tissue, I do not believe in retention theory. However, if you're talking about you do your manual stretches set, maybe you do some pumping, and then you put on an all-day stretcher to stay in that extended state, absolutely, I think that could work. And so that's where I think the application would be, is basically as something to do in addition to your typical length work, okay? Something where it's just a low tension that keeps you in a basically stretched flaccid state. I do think wearing it 4 to 8 hours as time would allow would be beneficial. I would argue, based on some of that extender data, that even 3 hours would be beneficial. Actually, shoot, even 1 hour would potentially be beneficial, better than nothing. But I do think it's one of those when you're like talking about with these lower tension devices, that more is more as far as length work specifically. I think you want to use the tension to basically get to your max stretched length without too much pressure, where it doesn't hurt. You're not feeling any pain. It's not causing any nerve damage, just a nice elongated state. And I also think you need to definitely take regular breaks to just assess your D, make sure everything is looking okay. There's no bruising, no bleeding, no blisters, which I'll be honest, guys, I'm freaking terrified of blisters, and I'm sure it's not a big deal, but the thought of having a blister on the glands of my penis is just horrifying to me. And that's why I'm like hesitant to use things like vac caps, and why I use, like, if I were to do this, I have a male hanger. I actually have it right back there that I would use. So what are my final thoughts? Guys, I think it does work, okay? I think it's quite obvious. The data clearly shows that it works, in my opinion, okay? And fundamentally, I think it works. I think it can help you remain in an elongated state and could potentially be a great adjunct to your normal routine. It helps keep the time under tension, but guys, for the love of Christ, do not sleep in one of these devices, okay? And once again, guys, I personally do not use one, but if you are looking for one, we do have them at peakmalephysique.com along with the male hanger device. So guys, that'll do it for this video. Let me know what you think. What are your experiences with all-day stretchers? If you want to get coached by me one-on-one, basically in video format, going through everything based on real science like this video here, please check out my course. Link is in the description below. If you need to reach me for consultation or for personal coaching, I do it through my patreon.com/DocHink. Be the best version of yourself. There's nothing wrong with self-improvement, but you are enough just as you are. All right, guys. Peace and love.
Dr. Hink got the plug on the health, yeah. Got you thinking about your wealth, yeah. In his office, no stealth, yeah. Pinnacle of that below the belt, yeah. Checks and balance, he's managing. Working miracles, no damage. Got you covered, no panicking. Steady calm. In the clinic, no vanishing. Yeah, with Doc Hink.